You know, we often talk about the dangers that lurk in the shadows of forgotten forests or abandoned asylums. But sometimes, the most profound terror is much, much closer to home. It's the feeling you get when you lock your door at night, not just out of habit, but out of a genuine, chilling need for a barrier between you and the world outside. More specifically, a barrier between you and the person living just a few feet away, on the other side of that wall. Tonight, we explore that very fear. These are 3 disturbing true stories about mysterious neighbors. It was Sarah's first apartment on her own. A small, 1-bedroom unit on the 4th floor of an older, but charming, brick building. Apartment 4A. It felt like a fresh start. The only downside, she quickly learned, was the paper-thin walls she shared with her next-door neighbor in 4B. His name was Mr. Albright. An older man, quiet, always dressed in a neat but faded cardigan. He kept to himself, which Sarah initially appreciated. But his quietness had a weight to it. He'd smile in the hallway, a slow, deliberate stretching of the lips that never reached his eyes. They were always watching. The first strange thing was the scratching. It would start every night, right around 2 a.m. A faint, rhythmic scraping coming from the shared wall in her bedroom. At first, she thought it was mice in the walls. She complained to the landlord, who found nothing. The scratching continued, night after night. It was slow, methodical. It felt less like an animal, and more like someone slowly dragging a fingernail back and forth across the plaster. Then, the smells started. A day after the scratching began, a faint, coppery odor would seep under her door and through the vents. It was the smell of old meat, of something metallic and spoiled. It made her stomach turn. One Tuesday, she was taking out her trash late when she saw Mr. Albright's door slightly ajar. Just a crack. A sliver of dim yellow light spilled into the hallway. And from inside, that smell was overpowering. Driven by a morbid curiosity, she leaned forward, peering through the gap. She didn't see much. A sliver of his living room. A worn armchair. And on the wall, directly facing her apartment, was a large, intricate pattern drawn in what looked like charcoal. It was a spiral, complex and unnerving. And as her eyes adjusted, she saw that the entire wall was covered in them. Dozens of spirals, overlapping, swirling into each other. And in the center of the largest one, at about eye level, was a small, dark smudge. The next day, she saw Mr. Albright in the hall. He was holding a bag of groceries. He gave her that empty smile. Mr. Albright, the walls are thin, Sarah. It's important to know what's on the other side. Her blood ran cold. He had never used her name before. She rushed back into her apartment, her heart hammering against her ribs. That night, the scratching was louder, more insistent. And it was no longer random. It was a pattern. 3 long scrapes, a pause, then 2 short ones. Over and over. She couldn't take it anymore. She pressed her ear against the cold wall, listening. And that's when she heard it. Underneath the scratching, a voice. Mr. Albright's voice, whispering, so low it was almost inaudible. Mr. Albright, almost through, almost time. Sarah stumbled back from the wall, a scream caught in her throat. He wasn't scratching random patterns. He was slowly, patiently, scraping away the wall itself. Wearing it down, night after night. The spirals she saw, they weren't just drawings. They were maps. Blueprints. And the dark smudge in the center, she realized with dawning horror, it was exactly where her bed stood on the other side. She moved out the next morning, leaving most of her belongings behind. She never went back. But a friend who still lives in the building recently texted her. They rented her old apartment again. The new tenant, a young man, seems nice. But he has a complaint. He says the man next door, Mr. Albright, keeps asking him if he's seen Sarah. He says Mr. Albright told him that she left something behind in the wall. When Mark and his wife, Chloe, moved into their new suburban house, they were thrilled. It was a quiet cul-de-sac with friendly, waving neighbors. All of them, except for the couple directly across the street. The Millers. They were an older pair, impossibly still, who spent every waking hour tending to their garden. And it was a magnificent garden. Perfectly manicured bushes, vibrant flowers that bloomed in unnaturally synchronized patterns, and not a single leaf out of place. But there was something wrong with it. There were no animals. No bees buzzed around the flowers. No birds sang from the trees. No squirrels dared to dart across its pristine lawn. It was a garden of perfect, sterile silence. The Millers themselves were just as silent. They never spoke. Not to each other, not to anyone else. They would just work. Watering, pruning, weeding, their movements slow and synchronized, like clockwork dolls. They'd often stop and just stare across the street, directly at Mark and Chloe's house, their expressions completely blank. One evening, Mark's dog, an energetic golden retriever named Buster, got loose and ran into the Miller's garden. Mark chased after him, his heart in his throat, apologizing profusely. The Millers just stopped their work and watched him, their gardening tools held limply at their sides. They didn't smile. They didn't frown. They just observed. As Mark grabbed Buster's collar, he noticed something strange. The soil in one of the flower beds looked freshly turned, but it wasn't the rich, dark brown of the rest of the garden. It was pale, almost gray, and sticking out of it was a small, white object. It looked like a child's tooth. He hurried back home, a cold knot tightening in his stomach. Later that week, Chloe made an offhand comment. "It's so weird. I never see them bring groceries home. Do you think they even eat?" The mystery deepened a few nights later. Mark was taking out the trash when he saw the Millers in their backyard, under the glow of a single, buzzing porch light. They weren't gardening. They were standing over the patch of grey soil, their heads bowed. And they were humming. A single, low, discordant note that made the hairs on Mark's arms stand up. It was a sound that didn't seem like it could come from a human throat. The final straw was the nightmare. Mark had a vivid dream that he was trapped in the Miller's garden. The flowers had eyes that followed him, and the grey soil was soft and warm under his feet. He looked down and saw a small, pale hand breaking through the surface, grasping at his ankle. He woke up in a cold sweat, the faint sound of humming echoing in his ears. He decided to investigate. The next day, while the Millers were out front, just standing and staring, as usual, he snuck into their backyard. He went straight to the patch of grey soil. He knelt down, his hands trembling, and dug his fingers into the earth. It was cold and clumpy. He pushed deeper, and his fingers brushed against something hard and smooth. He pulled it out. It was a small, porcelain doll's head, its face cracked and smeared with dirt. But as he wiped the dirt away, his blood ran cold. The doll's face, it wasn't a doll's face at all. The features were too realistic, too specific. It was the perfect, miniature likeness of the little girl who lived 2 houses down. The one who had gone missing about 6 months before Mark and Chloe had moved in. He dropped the head, scrambling back. As he did, he saw the Millers standing at the edge of the backyard, having silently rounded the corner. They weren't staring at him. They were staring at the disturbed patch of grey soil. And for the first time, he saw an expression on their faces. It wasn't anger. It was hunger. Mark and Chloe moved out a month later. The house sold quickly to a young family with twins. Mark drove by the other day. The garden is more vibrant than ever. And the new family, they have a beautiful, new garden gnome. A little porcelain boy, sitting perfectly still under a rose bush. And its face is a perfect, miniature likeness of one of the twins. Leo lived in a basement apartment. It was all he could afford, a dim, damp studio with a single window at street level, looking out at people's ankles. His upstairs neighbors were a family, the Carters, a seemingly normal couple with 2 young kids who sounded like a herd of elephants at all hours. He hated the noise, but he learned to live with it. The weirdness started with the deliveries. Every Tuesday, like clockwork, a van would pull up after midnight. It was unmarked, plain white. A man in a dark uniform would get out, open the back, and wheel a large, heavy-looking cardboard box on a dolly to the Carter's front door. He'd ring the bell once, the door would open just enough for the box to be pulled inside, and the van would drive off. It was always the same box, about the size of a small refrigerator. Leo first noticed it because the sound of the dolly's wheels going down the concrete steps to his neighbor's door was loud enough to wake him up. He wrote it off as some kind of grocery delivery service, even though the hour was bizarre. Then, he started noticing the smells. The day after a delivery, a strange, sweet, almost chemical odor would waft down from the vents. It was cloying, like rotting fruit and antiseptic. It made his head ache. One Tuesday, fueled by insomnia and curiosity, Leo decided to watch. He crouched by his street-level window, peering out through the bars. The white van pulled up right on schedule. The same man got out. But this time, as he wrestled the large box onto the dolly, the bottom of it gave way. Something heavy and wrapped in thick, clear plastic tumbled out onto the sidewalk. It was long and vaguely cylindrical. And in the dim glow of the streetlight, Leo could see what it was. It was a human leg, severed at the thigh. The skin was waxy and pale. Leo stifled a gasp, pressing himself against the wall. The deliveryman cursed, looked around frantically, and then, with shocking calmness, shoved the limb back into the broken box, sealed it with tape, and continued to the door as if nothing had happened. Leo was frozen in terror. He couldn't call the police. What would he say? He had no proof. He was just the guy in the basement. He spent the next week in a state of paralyzing fear, jumping at every sound from above. The next Tuesday came. The van arrived. This time, Leo couldn't bring himself to look. He just lay in bed, listening to the familiar sounds. The van door sliding open. The dolly wheels on the concrete. The doorbell. The door opening. But this time, there was a new sound. After the door closed, he heard two sets of footsteps walking away. Not one. Two. He held his breath, listening. The footsteps above him were heavy. They moved through the living room, into the kitchen, and then, they stopped right above his bed. He heard a low, guttural voice, one he didn't recognize. He knows then, Mrs. Carter's voice, clear as day, replying directly through the floorboards. Mrs. Carter, we know. Leo didn't pack. He didn't call anyone. He grabbed his wallet and his keys, and he ran out of that apartment and never looked back. He's living in a different city now, in an apartment on the highest floor he could find. But he still gets a package every Tuesday. A small, plain, white box with no return address. He's never opened one. He just throws it away. But last week, the box felt wet. And as he carried it to the dumpster, he could have sworn he felt something shift inside. The people we live next to, we think we know them. We see them mow their lawns, get their mail, wave hello. But behind closed doors, in the silence of the night, a different truth can fester. A truth that scratches at the walls, tends to unnatural gardens, and waits in a plain, white box. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.